I saw the best minds of my generation destroyed by madness, starving, hysterical. I should be allowed to glue my poster. I should be allowed to think. I should be allowed to glue my poster. I should be allowed to think. I should be allowed to think. I should be allowed to think.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another showing of the Atheist Experience. It is February 22nd, and we are live. We are sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a non-profit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We have weekly Sunday meetings. Those are currently, we're a traveling roadshow right now around Austin. Our old bagel shop, which we have been going to for the last 7 years or so, has up and closed on us. And so we're trying to find new places. We went to Posse East this morning. We've been a couple of places now. Still trying to find our new home. We'll let you know when we do. Might want to keep an eye on the website. We'll try and have it up there when we know. We don't know where we're going to be meeting next week just yet. Apart from our normal Sunday morning meetings, and those start usually around 10:30, but again, it kind of depends on where we're going right now. Apart from that, we have gamers, godless gamers, every Monday night at the house of Russell Glasser. We get together at around 7 o'clock on Monday nights, play board games, card games, role-playing games, anything that catches our fancy, basically. Great time, come down, meet some other atheists. We also have a weekly happy hour on Thursday nights. This is at Antonio's Tex-Mex near the corner of 35 and 183. It's on the southbound of 135, just about a block down from 183. That's every Thursday at around 7:30. People trickle in and out all night, so just look around for a table, and loud, boisterous atheist, probably going to be us. Sometimes we'll have a little Darwin fish or something like that at the table. And the waitresses and waiters usually know us pretty well, so just ask them. They can point you in the right direction. Also, on Saturdays, we have the Non-Profits. This is a bi-weekly internet audio show hosted at atheistnetwork.com. It's an hour and a half every other Saturday, of news analysis and just general banter. It's usually Russell Glasser, Jeff D., and whoever else shows up on that weekend. A lot of fun, definitely worth a listen. Also, the last thing, University Atheists and Agnostics. They're a student organization at UT. They have meetings. I checked their website. Their website right now is uanda.org, I believe. I believe it's uanda.org, University Atheists and Agnostics. I believe that their meetings are every Thursday now. I saw a link on their website to it, and it looks like it's kind of in a state of flux as to where it's actually going to be. I saw a schedule of the next couple months worth, and it's all different places. So you might want to check their website and look that up. From my understanding, it's a pretty strong group. It's been going for about a year and a half now, and they're doing fairly well. So I believe that is it for regular announcements. Yes, it's February 22nd. We are a live call-in show, and we're going to get to that a little bit later. Just went over announcements. I've got one other quick thing. We have a email address, tv@atheist-community.org. Basically, if you have any feedback, if you're holding at the end of the show, which we normally get 1 or 2 people on the phone, so we just don't have time for. Go ahead and drop us an email note, and we'll put them on the website. If it's something interesting, we'll read it out on the air. We got one. I had talked, I believe it was last week, about the problem of evil, that I had not heard a really good refutation to that. Problem of evil, just really quick summary. God is supposedly, and according to most people, he knows everything, can do anything, and he loves everybody. Therefore, why is there bad things happening in the world? If somebody's being hurt, he obviously knows about it. He could do something about it, and he apparently loves them, so why doesn't he do something? There have been a lot of arguments out there. We went over a couple last week, which didn't really go very far. We got an email, though. He didn't have his name on it, but it was R. Scott. Very lengthy email. And he talks about a book that he read called Hard Questions, Real Answers by William Lane Craig. And he had, what was it? I believe 8 points in this email. And we'll go over them really quickly, just to see what they are. First one, William Lane Craig says, according to the biblical scheme of things, God is directing human history toward his provisioned ends. Now, can you possibly imagine the complexity of planning and directing a world free of creatures toward some end without violating freedom? In other words, God has a plan of where this world's going to be and where everybody will be in 2,000 years hence or something like that. Therefore, that is such a complicated problem that bad things you're going to have to allow bad things to happen. Problem? They're forgetting the omni part. He is omnipotent, omniscient. He can do anything. He's really smart. If he can, he should be able to think of a way that, there can be a world that gets to an end where they don't have child rape. There should be a way to do that. And if somebody is willing to concede that he doesn't know everything, then fine. Problem of evil isn't the problem anymore. There may be other issues, and apparently with child rape in the world, there's some big issues. But apparently, that's not good. He should be able to come up with a way to work around that. Another point that I had, we just don't know how the sufferings we might endure might be used of God in our lives, or, if not in ours, the lives of those around us. Yes, they often look pointless, but we are simply not in a position to judge. The brutal murder of an innocent man or a child dying of leukemia could send a ripple effect through history so that God's morally sufficient reason for permitting it might not emerge until centuries or perhaps another country. Okay.
Same problem.
Pretty much the same problem. Yes, he should be able to think of a way. But another problem that's brought up here is what he's saying is there is some justifiable, rational, and moral reason to allow child rape. Mm-hmm. There is some outcome that we could look at that would say, okay, child rape is okay if it comes out, if through the effects it comes out this way. Now, until you're going to provide such a situation, I'm not buying it. I can't think of any possible explanation in this universe where child rape is okay, assuming such and such happens. And until you present that evidence, I think I am in a position to judge. I am not going to just willingly give up all my reasoning and say, okay, fine, he must know better than I am. If you just shut down all your rational thinking, that's not going to get you very far. Kind of dangerous. Another one, the chief purpose of life is not happiness, but the knowledge of God. Innocent human suffering provides an occasion for greater dependency and trust in God on the part of either the sufferer or those around him. This is really scary. Mm-hmm. Isn't that the most manipulative thing out there? I can hire somebody to go beat my dog with a stick so that they'll love me that much more because I don't beat them. God is saying that, yes, I can allow suffering in the world. I'll allow bad things to happen because you're going to love me that much more when it's over. That's along the lines of blackmail and extortion. That's manipulation. This is not a God who deserves to be worshipped, if that's the case. Another one. God has given mankind up to the sin it has freely chosen. He does not interfere or stop it, but lets human depravity run its course. Again, free will. He knew it was all going to happen. He put into motion the events that are currently in this world. He could foresee what was going to happen. He knew that Hitler was going to come along and such things. Yet he still deemed this plan, this world, to be okay. No, again, he should have come up with something better. If he doesn't agree with it, we did not freely choose this situation. He put us in the position and knew what the outcome was going to be and didn't do anything about it to change it. Not anything we can do much about. And also that ignores natural evil. Earthquakes, tidal waves, typhoons, anything like that. No one freely chooses a hurricane to, kill somebody or something like that. We had that big earthquake, I think it was in, was it Iran or India or something like that, not too long ago. And there, I think it was a family of nearly 60 people. I think it was a family of 60, and I think like one person survived. Again, that was not free will.
Things like epidemics and things would be presumably easy for an omnipotent God.
Exactly.
To take care of.
Exactly. The great flus and AIDS and such. He should be able to stop that. Let's see. When God asked his children to bear horrible sufferings in this life, it is only with the prospect of heavenly joy and recompense that is beyond all comprehension. For this slight momentary affliction is preparing us for an eternal weight in the glory, blah, blah, blah. Essentially, heaven is just really, really cool. And so anything that you go through it,
Isn't that what they told the 9/11 attackers? That you're going to have just this wonderful afterlife.
Exactly.
And
exactly. They had letters that were that they had on board that had 88 references to God on them. And yeah, they were just saying that if you do this, if you become a martyr for Allah, then you will be closer to God and you will get your 72 virgins and all this kind of stuff.
And this is much the same argument.
Exactly, exactly. Heaven is just so cool that any amount of suffering in this world is just plain fine. The problem with that is, one, it's a defeatist attitude. I don't like the idea that, oh, well, this sucks, but it'll get better. Because you can say the same thing with just about anything. If you don't agree, if you were a Jew living in Germany during World War II, this life sucks, but it'll end someday. That's not really helping the situation. I mean, Americans, every country in the world could have said, yeah, what Germany does, that kind of sucks, but it'll end one day. It doesn't really give you a chance to fight. Also, just looking from our point of view, we know this world exists. I know right now that people are out there suffering and have pain and things are going bad. I know that for a fact. I'm not positive that there's a heaven just yet. Pretty sure there's not, but still, that's not a given. Not many people know. Nobody knows for a fact whether they do or not. So let's try and fix things in this world. This world we know we have. Let's make this one better. Let's not hope that the next one is, because it may not come. And then, oddly enough, point 6 was exactly the same. Tolstoy put it, God sees the truth but waits. In the end, divine rewards will do more than enough to make up for what we suffered here. Same thing, same problem, doesn't count. Number 7, it struck me that in order to obtain eternal life in heaven, it would be worth it if God asked us to undergo an earthly life of the most extreme suffering and self-denial. Again, same thing, just because heaven's good doesn't mean that you should have suffering in this world. God is not a distant creator or impersonal being, but a loving Father who shares our sufferings and hurts.
Right.
So what? That's not helping the situation any. If the creator of the universe is hurting along with you, that doesn't solve any problems. I would rather see him say, okay, this is a bad thing, let's stop it, than to just say, I'm down there suffering with you. That doesn't help the situation any. It also says, this is an interesting one here. Jesus endured a suffering beyond all comprehension. He bore the punishment for the sins of the whole world. He was nailed to a cross. He suffered his entire life. But let's go back just a moment here. God asked the children to bear horrible suffering, blah, blah, blah. For this slight momentary affliction that is known as life, Jesus suffered. And Jesus got then to go up to heaven, be the right-hand man to God, and co-vice ruler of the universe.
So why should we care about his suffering if there's no...
Exactly. He suffered a slight momentary affliction that got all the human race off the hook. Not all that much, apparently. He didn't sacrifice anything. He's still the vice ruler of the universe. He didn't give up anything. He suffered on earth, and then he died for 3 days, and then went up to heaven And again, now he's with God. I don't really see what the huge sacrifice there was. If I could go up to heaven and be the ruler of the universe, and all it took was being nailed to a cross for a couple days, sure, go for it. But again, doubt it's going to happen. Let's see, what else? That was really it. So I would have to say hard questions, real answers. I know I haven't read the whole book. I will not pretend to do that. But again, if these are the main points out of it, then it doesn't really do. It's mostly just restatings of what we've had before. And like I say, Martin sent out a long letter. It is posted to our website. It goes into a little bit more depth. Again, atheist-community.org is our website, and they have a link on there to the TV show page, and a link on there to viewer email. Martin posted this up middle last week, so you can go and read the full thing there. It's a pretty long letter, but like I say, it's got some good stuff in there, but just like anything else, think about it for a few minutes and it doesn't really stand out.
So the upshot is the problem of evil still is a problem.
Yes. Yes, it has not been solved just yet. So, okay, and again, that's viewer email. If you want to write to us, got any feedback or anything like that, tv@atheist-community.org is what to write to. Now, my co-host today is Don Baker.
Hello.
Been on a couple times. You were actually on
This is my second time.
last week, or was it?
No, it was quite a while back.
Okay, it was a couple weeks ago. No, actually it wasn't.
It was
You were
a while
supposed to
ago.
be on a week or two ago, and didn't happen. Okay, I forgot about that. Yes, it's been a while since you've been on. Glad to have you back. You will be one of the rotating co-hosts.
Yeah. So this will be fun. We'll shake it up a little bit, hopefully.
Yeah, Martin is actually going to be leaving the show. He's gone this week for whatever reason. He's going to be back for the next 2 weeks, and then he's gone, and I'm taking over as permanent host. We've got a couple people who are lined up. We're going to have a rotating co-host for a little while. Don is one of them. And some other people are faces that you have definitely seen on this show. And it's going to be a good way to shake it up and get things going again. Right now we have Don.
Yeah. One of the things we decided to do is sort of have each of the co-hosts bring in some material to share and talk about. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the concept of a soul, which is a really very important concept in most religions. This idea that we somehow survive our bodies and live on, and maybe we go to God, or maybe we float around, maybe we're reincarnated into new bodies, that sort of thing. And you see this concept in all these religions, and I claimed it's kind of a flawed concept, and I wanted to kind of touch on some of the reasons why I think it's flawed. It's certainly a kind of comforting notion to have a notion of a soul, because you know, if one of your close relatives dies, you want to have this idea that they're still around, they're still watching you, they're still kind of present in your life, that sort of thing. It's a very comforting notion, especially when you lose someone close to you. But on the more sinister side, it's really sort of kind of appeals to someone's selfishness or sense of survival instinct to want to live forever, right? You get to cheat death by this concept of the soul. So it's very not even at an emotional level. It's a hook. It's actually at a level of our instincts to survive. So and presumably after you've cheated death, you get some sort of eternal reward, some heaven or whatever. Depends on the religion. It's also a way to distinguish humans from animals. It's kind of a little ego stroke to say that we humans have souls. We're special. We're wonderful, and these lowly animals don't. And so we're different than they are. And it kind of allows us a justification to rationalize our killing of animals for food and things, because they don't have souls and we do.
Yeah, we have dominion over everything in the world.
Right. So there's also the strong notion that the soul is the essence of our humanity. That our soul is our humanity, in a sense, our existence. And modern science has kind of refuted that. We know that our memories and our experience, which is a large part of who we are, is contained in our brains and not in some magic thing. Our personality is certainly part of our brains. And our sense of self is something of an illusion that cognitive sciences has figured out. So if you take a look at someone who is maybe dying of Alzheimer's, or who has had brain damage, you see that they've lost some of their memories. and maybe their personality has been changed. And so this sort of begs the question of, if they were to die at this point in their lives, would they be an eternal child or a sort of a broken person in heaven, or would they regain all their memories? So that's kind of a notion that's hard to kind of reconcile. If a person has one sort of personality before an accident and another sort of personality afterwards, how can that be reconciled with?
Knock the old soul out of them and got them a new one.
Right, right. And plus, there's this notion that if embryos have souls or young infants, the population of heaven would be just loaded with very young people because of over time we've had so much infant mortality, and if all those infants are up there with souls and they have no life experiences and even children have personalities, but it's just kind of.
Yeah, the whole idea of when does it become a human life? A lot of times, especially with stem cell research and all that kind of stuff right now, they're talking about, as soon as an egg is fertilized, that's a potential human. That's killing it. If it then gets a soul at that point, what about soul? What about eggs that don't implant in the wall and get aborted? There are lots and lots and lots of those.
Right, and if it was an important thing, you would think that Christianity and other religions would sort of worry about that and sort of,
no,
be there, I don't know, capturing them in toilets or something. I don't know what they'd be doing, but they don't seem to care about that quite as much as some other things. So there's so one of the points I made here is that our notion of brain and personality and sense of self is very much at odds with this notion of some sort of essence of us living on. But that's not even the strongest argument you can make. You can make arguments about this whole moment of conception thing, but before we get into that, let me talk about this notion that this notion of when a person acquires a soul has changed a lot throughout history, and there's very little agreement across religions and very little agreement within religions, and it sort of begs the question of if are they just sort of making up a story to fit the times, or do they really know, and why are they changing their minds? Is God changing His mind? It's kind of at odds with omniscience, and it's kind of at odds with the religions having some sort of special knowledge of God. So clearly there's a strong tie between being alive and having a soul, and Aristotle claimed that the fetus acquired a soul 40 days for males and 90 days for females after presumably copulation at this point, right?
Okay.
Because
I was going to say that's after birth. Wow.
Aristotle didn't, yeah. So, and then isn't that kind of ironic how there's like a different amount of time between one or the other, and maybe this is an explanation for why some people think that women have a poor sense of direction. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they were lost on the way. So it's kind of laughable, but you can laugh at Aristotle because they didn't know very much at the time. But the fathers of the Christian religion, St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas, confirmed this statement. They said this is right. This is right. So for 1,000 years or so of the Christian religion, that was sort of the ongoing definition.
The 40-90 day.
The 40-90 thing, yeah. So, but different groups have had different things. More recently, there's been a notion that the soul becomes part of the child after it's born, maybe when it's baptized, or maybe a certain time after it's born. I think that someone was saying that the Jewish religion it's 30 days after birth. Christian religion in the early 20th century said that it wasn't until they were baptized, and this kind of reconciles with the fact that at these times there was a lot of infant mortality, and you'd like be really heartbroken as a mother to know that your child
Yes, if it didn't have a soul at that point and it died,
right,
may not be quite as distressing as if it did.
Right, and so before a person has a soul, it's just like losing an animal. It's just like losing a farm animal or something. It's no big deal, and so you shouldn't worry about it so much, right? So, but
perhaps that's what they could have been trying to get to, but I still have a hard time believing that any mother would still believe anything like that and say,
right,
you know.
Right. Well, there's no doubt that it's a loss. So, but this kind of cushions that loss, perhaps, and that it wasn't really human yet.
Yeah, by having the church tell them that it's not a real loss.
Right.
It wasn't a human yet.
But today the big mantra is the soul is created at conception.
Yes.
You know, and although that's even a problem, right? Life begins at the moment of conception is the current thing. The religious right is making those comments. They're very much against abortion for this reason, and certainly the Catholics are saying much the same thing.
Okay.
Okay. So. Just to wrap up this little part, you know, we have this notion of shifting definitions that nobody seems to know, and as we learn more in science and as our times change, the definition seems to be changed to sort of fit the time, which is, you know, if I were God, I would sort of do it one way, you know, and not monkey around with that. But
well, it's mostly people, I would assume, trying to keep up with science. They have their own ideas of when a soul comes based on their limited knowledge of how this whole thing from, you know, sex to baby works. And so they're kind of just making it up as they go along. And now as we know more and more about science, they're trying to, say, get a little more specific, and that's where it ends up falling apart.
Right, right. And as we know even more, we find even flaws with that. So this moment of conception thing is problematic for various reasons, right? Because there's this notion of, you know, an egg cell and a sperm cell, they unite. Yeah. That happens at one moment in time, and a little later on, the chromosomes merge. So, which is conception? Certainly, implantation of this new cell is very important.
Yes.
So, there's a whole process here, and this notion that a soul happens at this time is also problematic, because even after the sperm and the egg merge, there's some crazy things that can happen. You can have things called twinning, where the early embryo can split into two, and you have two different individuals, and this gives you twins. Okay, ultimately down the road, you get identical twins. So do we say identical twins have half a soul, and if one of them goes and, you know, is blasphemous, the other will go to hell for that? Does that make sense? That doesn't make sense to me. No. So that's a problem.
Duplicated soul?
Yeah, there's another problem too, where you can have two embryos fertilized and they can merge into a single human being. And this is a very rare thing. It's called a chimera, and this can happen. And so do you have two souls in one person? And so if this person, there's a situation where a mother actually is genetically unrelated to her children because her reproductive organs were part of her twin, effectively. What would have been her identical twin had they not merged into her. Okay. Okay. And but when they do a genetic test, she's not the mother of her own children, which is kind of an interesting deal. So wow. So let's say we have one of these people and they go, you know, are blasphemous, and are they going to burn in hell? And what about this other soul that's carried along? You know, is that going to be punished as well? The one that doesn't control the brain. Yeah. So,
and that's where a lot of the modern liberal religions come into play, is that, you know, God must have something in play to where until you're at least, you know, 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, whatever, then you're not really responsible.
Yeah.
They all go to heaven.
Right.
Despite what the Bible may say.
And baptism, I think, is a mechanism to, that sort of confirms that, or is a part of that.
The only problem with that is that it's only the Catholics that actually have, or it's just a couple that actually have baptism, you know, at or near birth. For a lot of religions, not till, you know, you are able to make a choice, so you can make an informed decision that you actually want to be baptized. That's when you actually get it done.
Yeah, I'm all for baptism, you know, at the time that you're an adult. You know, and you can consciously make that decision rather than have it be made for you.
Exactly.
So, so we see, and you mentioned earlier the fact that, you know, we don't have a lot of fertilized embryos don't implant, and they're killed you know, ultimately, and the Christian religion doesn't seem to be very concerned about these. They are much more concerned about other things. So. So there's really no notion of a definitive moment of conception. It's a whole process, and even then, after you have a united cell, there's some things that can go on that are very counterintuitive with this notion of a discrete soul. So I can't make sense of that. But now with human cloning, now we've got some even a bigger can of worms coming up, right? Yeah. Because okay, now we can take a cell out of my body, clone a completely new individual, probably won't look like me, hopefully, and does this new individual have a soul or not? Okay, and if it does, it's kind of taken God out of the soul business. You know, that's sort of, you know, something that's very, very much an artificial, meaning man-performed action.
Man can produce one of these things. So.
Right. So does this cloned embryo have a soul? Well, if so, then God was not needed. If it doesn't have a soul, then we've created a monster or something. And we can create an infinite number of individuals from one person, because if we can take one of my cells and make an individual, we can take one of their cells and so on, all the way down. So, and I claim that one of the reasons that this cloning, this reproductive cloning especially, is so scary to the religious people is that it really challenges this notion of a soul. Not everybody agrees with me on this statement, but
I still don't see how it's that big of a problem, though. Just like artificial insemination, in vitro.
Yeah, they made many of the same arguments about in vitro fertilization, that we're taking God out of the equation.
Yeah, were they having hissy fits back then also, and that just kind of died down?
Yeah, yeah.
I wasn't around when those developments were made in science, so I don't know if, you know, maybe everybody was up in arms about that one too, saying, my God, it's unnatural.
And we certainly would say today that the people that were born from this procedure were not any different, you know, any better, any worse. They certainly appear to have souls, as far as we can tell. You can make another argument based on...
I would argue with that statement, but...
Right. This common sense notion,
I don't think that we do have souls, so...
James D. Came and talked to our group a while back, and he made an interesting point, and that is that you know, if you say that animals don't have souls and humans do, and we descended from the animals, there must have been some sort of moment in time when humans acquired souls. So there has to be something that happened. Now, did God come down and, you know, start handing them out like little lollipops, or did He say that these two people have souls, right? And the progeny from those two people have souls. And what about intermixing? You know, what happens if we have a mother that has a soul and a father that doesn't have a soul?
Yeah.
So that's kind of causes some problems. Also, when these first people go to heaven, they don't have their ancestors there anymore. So they're the sort of first people in heaven.
But then again, he's God. Maybe He retroactively gave souls to everyone who had already died, even.
I guess.
How far back is He going to go? But hey.
Yeah. So, and another, kind of the last argument I'd like to make is you know, you might say that, oh, well, people can have their own little notions of you know, what's going on, and you can just sort of pat them on the head and let them go on their merry way. But this notion is the concept of soul a harmless amusement? I claim not. I claim it's not a harmless amusement. I claim that it's really a very dangerous concept. Most of the inhumanity to men throughout history have been based on the idea that certain people have souls and other people don't have souls, therefore they're inferior, therefore it's okay to kill them or persecute them or whatever. So, you know, things like the conquest and then the missionaries going out and doing their missionary work, who incidentally have killed more people than they've saved. So that's a problem. That's a problem. There's been a lot of inhumanity. There's another problem in that, you know, if the soul is the essence of our humanity and the soul is stuck in our bodies until we die, then in a sense our bodies are living, our life is a liability, right? It's something that we should shed in order to get to heaven, right? Yeah. So it really has a notion of highly devaluing human life. Yeah. And that's a terrible thing.
And what happens also in the situation of, right now we're trying to learn how to do cryogenics, where when I die, or hopefully a little bit before I die, they can actually freeze my body and revive me, hopefully in, you know, 10, 20, 200 years or whatever. Does the soul get frozen?
Yeah.
Do I lose my soul? Do I come out of it in a soulless state? In actuality, could that be a good thing? Would I then have a split personality? Half of me is in heaven, and half of me is on earth.
Yeah.
That could be kind of cool.
Right. I understand they've just been freezing heads, too, because they figure that by then you'll be able to reconstruct a whole body.
Exactly.
Too,
so then, do you only have 10% of a soul?
Right. Right. So I claim that belief in the soul is really a hook by which religions can pull their puppet strings and get people to do things like we've already talked about the 9/11 attack. So, you know, monetarily, you know, we're spending a lot of tax money against this war on this war on terrorism, and in reality, the notion of the human soul is very much a cause of this. There are other causes as well, but if people didn't believe that they had an eternal soul, then it'd be much harder to scare them up and find them to go fly planes into buildings, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, soul is an appealing concept, but I claim it's not only nonsensical, but it's very harmful. And, you know, as an atheist, I'm very concerned about this, and you know, you won't hear any of this in your churches. That's for sure.
And even outside of that, I mean, if you just look just to the basic premise of what we usually stand for, where's the evidence? Is there any evidence that we have a soul? I think there was one medical experiment done or something a long time ago, I can't remember the exact details, where they weighed somebody just before they died and just after they died. And they found they were like, 3.2 ounces less after they died, and therefore that's the weight of the soul.
Yeah, these out-of-body experiences are something that you hear about, and they've conducted some experiments where they've supposedly had, in emergency rooms where people are often dying. No. They've done things like put little notes on top of the lights where presumably they could see them in their out-of-body experiences.
If you're out of your body, you should be able to read that note.
Right.
The one that I did have, this was maybe a year ago or something, some lady, I think they were studying her for epilepsy, I believe. And it had some electrodes in her brain to try and, figure out what's going on when this, all goes to hell, basically. And they found that if they had an electrode in what's called the angular gyrus in your brain, if they give it a little shock, she had an out-of-body experience every single time. And she would just, kind of, she had this feeling she leapt out of her body for a couple of seconds and then she would go back in.
Yeah.
And every single time they did it, she had one.
Right. So these out-of-body experiences are not evidence of the soul, as far as I can see.
Yeah.
So maybe we can shift gears and take some callers?
Yeah. Okay, we'll take calls as soon as they come in. Again, we're a live call-in show, 477-2288. Give us a call, tell us what you think. Okay, do have a couple other quick things that we can go over.
Okay.
Let's do the funny stuff. I mentioned on the show a couple weeks back that I had taken a trip to Baton Rouge and went into one of the Christian bookstores there. Mostly looking for something, I was looking for a book on the problem of evil at the time. Figured I'd walk around and see what they had. Didn't find anything all that interesting, so I started looking around just to see what kind of books they have, t-shirts, all this kind of stuff, because they all got interesting things. And I found a few things down there which really had a good laugh. The first one, this again I talked about on the show a couple weeks back. Normally they don't admit, they say that, I've come to this through my own thinking and all this kind of stuff. But sometimes they just blatantly admit exactly where they stand. And we're working on it. Oh, there you go.
So this is a photograph of a t-shirt.
This is a t-shirt that they are actually selling in Christian bookstores. And they freely admit, brainwashed. Now, the quote that they have on the bottom of that, Romans 12:2. Let's see, I'll look that up now.
No, it's about giving over your mind to God is the gist of it. Right?
To a certain extent. Where'd that page go? Okay, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may accept and that ye may prove what is good and acceptable and perfect will of God. Basically just, wash your mind. Transformed by the renewing of your mind. Brainwashed.
Yep.
What else?
Well, I have yet to see anybody wear a shirt like that.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
I don't know how popular they are, but
Arlo had this one shirt. I want to say it was Gold's Gym, but I'm not too sure if that's right. Where it had a picture of Jesus on the back of it, cut to ribbons. I mean, just it's very gory. Blood is absolutely everywhere, and he's on the ground, across rubble. Big and buff guy, not the normal scrawny Jesus that you see in the movie. He was buff. And like he's doing these push-ups, and he's got his big cross on his back with the sin of the world written on it. Yeah, I mean, it just cut to ribbons in some of these things. Another T-shirt that they had was this one. And this one, hopefully it's not the best one there. Son, I need you to build me a bridge. These are all the tools you'll need. Love, Dad. Or see you soon, love, Dad. Again, big hammer, 3 big nails.
And these are presumably the nails by which Christ was nailed to the cross.
Exactly.
That sort of thing.
The bridge to heaven. And the other one I had was this one, which is a little bit smaller. This was actually up on the wall. I couldn't actually get it down, so if you can get that one. So at the top, it says, Jesus, tougher than nails. And it's, of course, got the 3 bloody nails on it. Okay, and we had a couple of books also. Go over those really quick. This one I always thought of a Happy Meal. Because at one time, this was years and years ago, I think on a Happy Meal or with trays that you get at McDonald's, they had a map of the United States, and you could like track the hurricane. When you were watching it at night, you could plot where it's at and stuff like that. And so that's kind of the feeling I get from this. Charting the End Times Prophecy Study Guide. Little boys and girls, you too can watch the news and find out when the world will end. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm not too sure exactly how that chart works down there. I didn't look
pretty creepy stuff.
Yeah,
no doubt.
This one I'll present without comment. You can move up on that one a little bit. No-Brainer's Guide to What Christians Believe.
Okay.
We'll just let that one go.
Rational thought is not necessary here. That's right.
And then the final one. What if America... What was it again? What if America were a Christian nation again, by D. James Kennedy. I just like that again part, assuming that it apparently was at some point.
I mean, it's news to me.
Yeah, we missed that one.
We certainly have a nation of religious nuts, but we don't.
But we try not to support them too much.
Yeah.
Okay. And then one that we just got today, actually, is this one. They apparently have blessed chocolates now, or sweet blessings.
That's a great marketing ploy.
Yeah. We had, or actually Arlo, when he was on the show, he has a whole bunch of this stuff.
Oh, yeah?
He had the Testaments. And again, this is stuff from actual Christian stores. This is
like
not
an after-death mint, or what?
Yeah, these were not jokes. These are actual Christian bookstores, and yeah, they had the Testaments.
Okay.
And so yeah, we did have a food show one time. We brought out all these different kind of candies and gums and everything like that, and we were chowing down on them the whole show. So, all right, we have got a couple callers lined up now. Might as well go ahead and take those. First, we will go with Janet. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
Pretty good.
That's good. Okay, I wanted to hear more about the lady about the outer body experiences.
Okay. That was a news story, again, about a year ago or something. There's 2 different things I've heard on it, actually. One is there's a small part of the brain called the angular gyrus. It's behind your right ear, basically. And what they did was they had an electrode implanted there, and when they gave it a little jolt, she had an out-of-body experience every time. Again, she just had this feeling that she left her body for a couple seconds, and then she would snap back into it.
Okay, did she have any stories, or did she see anything different, or?
No, I don't believe so. She was not particularly religious. She hadn't had these before. It was nothing like that. It's just she goes in the hospital for some testing, and wow, we can do out-of-body experiences. That's kind of cool. The other one I heard was it's apparently some kind of helmet that they made, where you put this helmet on, and it's an electromagnet, and they essentially shock your brain with an electromagnet. Your brain essentially works on electrical, the conductions and electrical fields and stuff like that. And so when you send a magnet through it, it kind of messes up that. And when this happens, there's a part of your brain that controls, it's in your mind of what you can reach with your arms. These books, this table, stuff like that, these are things that are really close. I have a very special sense of them. There's another part of your brain that deals with things that are farther away. And essentially what would happen is when you shock the brain like this, that distinction would blur. And so people would feel a oneness with the universe, like they were calm and peaceful, and you know, they were one with the trees and the animals and the bushes and the planets and stuff like that. So it wasn't exactly an out-of-body-ness, but it was this oneness with nature type thing that they would have.
Yeah, and it's very easy for someone to give that a religious interpretation.
Exactly, exactly.
So they would have to use a helmet to have that feeling.
Exactly, exactly. It was a helmet because, again, you could shock the brain with these electromagnets.
So we're not supposed to feel like that naturally?
Well, I wouldn't say not supposed to.
We're not supposed to be mentally ill if we do feel like we're connected to nature or the environment.
Actually,
that all things have like this cycle.
Not exactly. The brain is really powerful.
Okay.
It's all just chemical reactions, and you can control your brain to a greater extent than most people normally do.
Okay.
Again, meditation. The Buddhists can sometimes get into these amazing states because they practice this meditation. There are ways that you can have meditation and certain experiences that mess with your brain in such a way that it can get into different patterns, and you can have these just through practice, essentially. There are those goggles that you can buy where you sleep with these goggles on and they start flashing lights when you're dreaming, and it allows you to have lucid dreams and things like that. That's not necessarily anything real. It's not a soul. It's just your brain doing funky things.
Do you believe that some people are gifted with maybe premonitions, maybe?
No.
You've never met a person who is prophetic or psychic naturally?
No. Most of those, they make a lot of claims. They have seen lots and lots and lots of things. They get on talk shows and they'll predict 35 things. You know, in the coming year, we're going to have stock market recession, and we're going to get a new president, and, you know, there's some kind of terror happening in the East.
I mean, have you ever went to a person, not those people on TV, but have you ever went to, like, a person who can, like, tell you what's going to happen?
No.
Wow.
And most of the ones that I have seen, again, you know, in books or, you know, shows, whatnot, one, they usually make so many claims that they're bound to get a couple hits.
Okay.
And especially if they're vague. You know, there will be some kind of upheaval or unrest in the Middle East somewhere. Well, that's been there for the last 3,000 years.
Do you know if there really are people who can find missing children? I met one time.
Again, I would say probably not. Your brain is self-contained.
No, I'm telling you that I have had that experience. Not everybody is gonna have the same experience as everybody else.
Okay.
But I was lucky enough, blessed enough to meet somebody that helped me find somebody who had lost.
Okay. And again, what kind of predictions were made? Were these things that could have been known otherwise? Was it just a lucky guess, perhaps?
It wasn't just a lucky guess. It was like somebody had ran off with my kids, and I had been praying.
Okay.
And then a prophetess told me where they were.
Okay. So you actually had the vision, I guess is a word to call it, versus somebody else did?
No, they had it.
So somebody else had it and
I
said,
happened to
hey,
be led
look,
to
they're
the
going to be
person.
here.
I happened to be led to the person who knew where my children were.
Okay, okay.
I know this sounds very, very strange, but I just
Yeah.
want to let you know that sometimes, like like you were talking about the electromagnetic helmet and everything, and that's not even necessary for some folks.
Yeah, and again, some people
everybody's different. Not everybody's a lawyer. Not everybody's a doctor.
Yeah, and some people have practiced these things, or just are naturally, you know, just in that way to where they can do these things.
Buddhism, there's a
But that doesn't imply that there's actually a soul, or that you can actually leave your body,
that's what you're talking
tell
about
the
today?
future, or anything like that.
Okay, I don't want to argue with that. I don't want to try and change your mind. But I just want to let you know that there is something larger than ourselves that we can connect with. I don't know about the soul. You can call it whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But there is something larger than ourselves that we can connect with. We don't need a helmet. We don't need to be shocked electrically in the back of our ear. But I want to tell you about Buddhism. There's a sect where they chant. I don't know if you heard about the Tina Turner story. And you can get on your rhythm. They believe in the rhythm of the universe.
Okay.
They believe everything has a rhythm.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of things.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Okay. We're going to go ahead and take some other calls now.
Okay.
Thank
you for letting me speak with you, and thank you.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah, we've heard a couple of those things before. I used to always believe that, yeah, I mean, basically the idea that there are, 4 billion religious people in the world. There must be something. And again, just through, my own arguments, my own thinking about it, my own reading up on it, I decided, well, no, there's not. There's a lot of wishful thinking going on. There's a lot of coincidences. There's a lot of actual, people messing with their brains.
Evolutionarily, we are geared towards creating explanations for things. And
yes.
if one thing happens, then another, it's very easy for us to make the conclusion that one caused the other. And it's a very common fallacy, and it's something to be aware of, that it's a sort of a trap to fall in.
Yeah.
To make those sorts of conclusions.
Yeah, yeah. So, all right. We have got, let's see, take which one? Okay. We've got Johnson. How you doing?
Hello.
Hi.
I just wanted to comment on what you just spoke about, Romans chapter 2, the T-shirt that you showed, talking about brainwashed.
Yeah, 12:2, I think it was.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment about that. Because I'm a Christian, and reading that passage, I think you can't just take one part of that without reading further down on that passage.
Okay.
And when it's talking about being brainwashed, it's talking about seeing things differently, talking about how to not think of yourself highlier than you should, with the sober judgment. You should think according to the measure of faith that God has given to you.
Yeah.
And what it's talking about is really talking about love. It's talking about hate what is evil, cling to what is good, basically just being devoted to brotherly love. Yeah. It also talks about...
And the main thing that we're pointing out with that is this was actually a Christian bookstore.
Right, and it's named Brainwashed.
And so, yeah, they're just selling themselves, as being brainwashed.
Well, yeah, because if you look at the world today, the way that the world thinks,
yeah,
you will repay evil for evil, right?
Yeah, I know it's a certain element of there,
exactly,
of just humor. Of just humor. I mean, yes, there may very well be other verses that kind of, back it up or something like that.
Right.
But essentially, religion usually goes after people when they are either very young or very old. Weak positions in their lives. When they're young, they can't think critically. They don't have the skills to decide what's true and what's not. They have to, you kind of have to rely on your parents or, older people to decide for you. Well, and you have to believe them.
Do you believe that it's good to repay evil for evil? I mean, do you think that
As in an eye for an eye or something like that, or?
Well, that's basically what you're saying is that being brainwashed. What this scripture is saying that to change the way that you think. Don't think the way that the world thinks. See, the world thinks to repay evil for evil. But when you think of Christianity, God says repay evil for good.
Yeah. The status quo.
Well, maybe the T-shirt should say that instead of I'm brainwashed.
Well, you have to understand what they mean by that. And then also I wanted to tell you the next book over in 1 Corinthians. I mean, I don't mean to be rude, but you're just the main example of what this scripture is saying when it says God chooses the foolish things of the world to shame the wise. You guys may think that you're wise in your own sight, but in God's eyes, you're foolish. You see what I'm saying?
And do you agree with them?
Absolutely, I do. I mean, I sit up here watching you guys talk about there's no soul and evolutionary, and you have to look at yourself. You were created infinite. You were so wonderfully made, yet you think that you came from a one-celled animal, and that's
do you have of that? What evidence is there of a soul?
When I look in the mirror, and I see myself, I see evidence of a higher creator. Let me just say
When I look in the mirror, I see evidence of genetics and biology and chemical reactions and
Thank you. You just
history.
made 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 27 true. You just made it.
If that's what you want to say,
you have that Bible right over there by you on your left-hand side. Just check it out. Read it.
Yeah.
Read it for yourself.
We have.
Oh,
and
you have?
Yeah.
Then then you see yourself in the mirror then.
Yeah, and I see absolutely nothing in there.
You're taking your wisdom and you're saying that my wisdom genetically, I came from a one-celled animal, and that's what it is.
Yeah.
And that's really unfortunate.
There is evidence to back up that idea. We have looked through history and we can find everything.
Even recounted what he said.
Yeah, I see no reason to believe in a big invisible man created me. I have absolutely no need for that idea.
Your name is Ashley. Look in the mirror. You are created in the image of God, Ashley. Whether you believe that or not, you are.
Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot for listening.
Okay,
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Created in the image of God. If this is what God looks like, youch. All right. Yeah, like I say, it's biology. It's evolution. We've been around for a long time.
Well, it kind of plays in this notion that we're special, right? We're like God. We're wonderful.
Exactly.
We're just like
when
him.
my cat looks in the mirror, does it see the face of God? Because it was created? No, we were created in the image of God, supposedly, because I'm better than my cat.
Yeah,
I'm more special.
If I'm God's perfect creation, why do I have a bad back? You know?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, we have lots and lots of problems. If this is God's image with cataracts, he could have done better. Do we really want to take that? I see one yes and one no. We'll go on to something else. We got, yes. Lee, how you doing?
Great. How are you guys?
Pretty well. What you got?
I've got one question and one comment. You ever notice how the Muslims and the Christians and the Jews, okay, their basic foundation came from Abraham.
Yes.
And they still want to kill each other. That's incredulous.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm making here is both of the Muslims believe in the Quran and the Christians supposedly believe in the Bible.
Yeah.
Right? The question I have is if the one who wrote the material down, when did the actual event happen? And how much once upon a time was put into the story?
Yeah. I believe there's actually a book out there called Who Wrote the Bible? Mm-hmm. And I think it goes mostly into the first part of the Old Testament. I think it deals mostly with the Pentateuch, the first 5 books, which is really the basis for Jewish and Islamic
well,
history.
3 religions, really.
Yeah, it plays into all 3, but it's a much larger part of Judaism and Islamics. But essentially, it's because they have contradictions within those books, and they have 2 different creation stories, for instance, which are pretty close but not quite the same thing. What actually happened, in theory at least, what they can kind of date back, is the religions around the world at that time had this one story, and then they split off into two different nations. And each one had to change the story a little bit to make it say that we're the right ones. They're wrong. We got it right. Ours is a little bit different. We're right.
But
so each of them did that.
Yeah, but the world keeps carrying this on into the future.
Yeah.
The Muslims want to kill the Jews,
yeah.
and the Christians are just what you call
and there have
shoot off from Judaism.
Yeah, and there have been some alliances in the past. I know Muslims and Jewish were pretty close for a while because, again, they both relied on the same areas of the Bible. That was quite a while ago, but yeah, for a while, they were kind of working together.
Can you imagine a world without any churches, temples, or idols? You got the point.
Yeah. We're working on it.
It might be a better place.
We're working on it.
It might be a much better place.
Yeah.
That's it, fellas. Thanks.
Okay, thanks for calling. We actually had a discussion a day or two ago. Some friends and I were talking about the Left Behind movies. Mm-hmm. And talking about, it would be nice to have an offshoot movie from that or miniseries called Left Alone. Where it's the story of the world and how it's such a better place after the rapture. After all the Christians have been sucked up and taken away, the world will be a better place.
Yeah, we should probably do a more in-depth presentation on that at some point. The rapture. It's a rather interesting and notion from a lot of different ways. It's
exactly.
Very kind of comical from my perspective. But
yeah. Brings in a lot of problems with cremation and all of these kind of things. As in,
right.
if you're cremated, then you can't really get sucked up and you won't have your body anymore. So when you're raptured in 10 years or 2 days or 500 years or whatever, what happens to your body? So if you're just a pile of ashes in heaven, may not be much fun.
Well, I guess if God's omnipotent, he can reconstruct it.
Yeah, he should be able to reconstruct it.
Glue it all back together.
It's a big jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, we have Stanley. How you doing?
How you doing today?
Hey.
You know, I've never called y'all, but I just had a feeling I wanted to call you. You're saying, how do you prove God?
Okay.
I mean, how can you look outside and not know? It's harder to believe in evolution, that you came from a little amoeba, than somebody with a great intelligence created everything that you see.
Yeah. But we have evidence of evolution. We have fossil records. We have genetics. We have all these different pieces of evidence that fit together and tell a story that species have changed over time.
Well,
and we don't have any evidence that, you know, there's a man in the sky that said, poof, there it is.
Well, to start with, he's not a man. He's God. But
Okay.
I want to tell you something.
It
And
just
I'm
sort of
not
begs the
trying to
question
be
of
harmful
who
to
created
you,
God?
but-
Where did he come from? It's kind of moving the question
Well, he's
to an
always
even
been
bigger
there.
thing.
He's a God. He's not us. We only understand that things start and end.
Yeah,
He's
but how
always.
did
You're
he
not
start?
God, neither am I. But let me tell you something. Anyway, I'm not trying to give you trouble. I kind of worry about you because you make it your objective to fighting, and that's going to be a scary day. And let me tell you why.
No, we're not here. We're not here to fight. We're here to open up minds
Okay,
and just show people a different point of view. Because
You know,
a lot of what people hear about atheism is that they're devil-worshipping baby eaters, and most of us aren't.
Okay, I understand that. I understand you're
And
trying
so,
to say
you know, we're
everything's
trying to
got
get out our voice, and here's our way of doing things. Here's our outlook on the world, and you know, we think that we have a better idea. You know, we've got morals in place and rules for those things, which make more sense than just God said.
Okay, well, let me tell you, I won't tell you exactly what happened because I know in your mind it's your objective to try to, you know, say that ain't right or this ain't right. But let me tell you personally, I've had things happen in my life that I not only believe in Jesus and God, I've had things happen that I know it's a fact. F-A-C-T. I can't prove it to you.
Well,
But let me tell you, he spoke to me one day while I was thinking. You know how you can be riding along and you're having a conversation with yourself?
Yeah, and
he interrupted me, man, and talked to me.
And we had that discussion a little while ago about out-of-body experiences and stuff like that. You know, alcohol can do that.
I don't drink.
You know, drugs can do that.
I don't use drugs.
You know, meditation can do that. Your brain
the brain
can
is
do
a very
lots and
complex thing.
Exactly.
Right.
The brain is incredibly complicated. It can do some weird things once in a while.
Okay, then let me ask you this question, and this is the truth. I went to a revival one night with my mama. She was having trouble walking. This is many years ago.
There you go.
He prayed for her. Her leg actually stretched a little way. She had her feet up on a little folding chair. I saw it with my own eyes. Now explain that. Everybody in the church.
How many people left there and were not
occurred.
healed?
Huh?
How many people left there and were not healed? Did
Well, I
God
don't
not
recall,
see
but
it fit to heal them?
I can't say that. I can't tell God who to heal and who not to heal. I don't know each other's personal life, but I'm telling you what I'm telling you now is a fact, because I don't want y'all to go face God when you quit breathing. You're going to be very scared.
There you go. That's
Christianity.
Christianity. That's Christianity. You better be right, because if you don't, you're going to burn in hell.
Veiled threats.
That's what God said. I didn't say it.
Okay, so it's a threat. So it's a religion based on threats.
He has the right to say whatever he wants to say.
Yes, he can. What?
He can say whatever he wants to say. You didn't make you. He made you.
Just because he created according to you at least, he created the universe, he can do whatever he wants.
That's right.
How can that possibly be moral? How can that possibly be a good thing? Just because, okay, let's say, you know, I have a child. Since I created that child, can I do anything I want? I wouldn't think so.
Because morally it wouldn't be right to harm it.
Okay, but God can do this.
But he's
God can do whatever he wants. Just because he's the big space daddy, he can do whatever he wants?
Yeah.
No.
Why? If you made me, I'd be scared to death of you.
That's just, so the sort of message is align yourself with the most awful God, because you'll want to get on his good side.
Well, he's still God. There's nothing changes that. Yeah. He says if you'll bow down to Jesus, he'll love you and take care of you.
Exactly. But if he loves people, though, it shouldn't require bowing down and kissing feet.
Well, you see, that's your own arrogance,
he should be able to say that look, you made a bad choice. Okay, you don't believe in me, or you believe in some other religion or something like that, and you know, but I still love you. You're still my son. But no, he doesn't do that. If you don't come here and kiss my feet, I'm going to burn you for all eternity in a lake of fire. That's not a loving God. That's a vindictive and cruel God. And even if he were real, which I really don't think he is, even if he were, that is not a God that I could see worshiping, because he's just really sick.
Well, I'm going to tell you, when you quit breathing, I just told you that, and I told you to warn you, so that when you get there, you can't say, oh, Stanley didn't warn me of the truth. I did tell you the truth.
All right.
And he'll say every knee shall bow.
We'll bring up your name if we see him. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, really interesting. Yeah, Christianity based on threats is never a good thing. Like say, I mean,
from my perspective, it's all just manipulation and controlling people, and you know, the big carrot is life in heaven, the big stick is life in hell, or you know, afterlife in hell.
Yeah.
But if there's no soul, it's all falls on its face. So,
God should not be out there saying that the only way to get heaven is to just kowtow and love Him. That's not the
big
way to
ego
go.
trip, you know.
So, yeah, that's if He created the human race with the sole purpose of just worshiping Him, He's got an ego problem.
Right.
He needs help. So, come down. We will help you. All right, who do we have? We have, is that Skylar? Okay. How are you doing?
Doing good, sir. How are you?
Okay, very, very faint.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's much better.
Okay. My comment was, as all humans, we should just forget religion and become united in humanity.
Okay.
That's the only thing I had to offer towards your show.
Yep. We'll go for that.
I like that idea.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good idea.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, the humanists' morals, basically, usually end up doing fairly well. The reason that we're good to each other, the reason that we live together and we don't kill each other, murder each other, and steal each other's cars, is because we have to live together in society.
Yeah, there's a movement called humanism that expounds on that idea and kind of brings it to a more fuller conclusion, and it's good stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like say the religion usually says that we have a moral code and it comes from God. God simply says do this, that, and the other, and don't do this, that, and the other, because I said so. It offers no justification for it, and the assumption is that, well, God's God. He can say whatever he wants. The problem with that is, what if God had said that rape is good? Would then rape be good? And I would say no. Again, we have to live in society. We have to live together because we are a social species. By living together, again, we have developed rules that, things work really well if we cooperate, if we're nice to each other. If I go out and steal somebody's car, I'm going to have fun today. It's going to suck tomorrow when I'm in prison now. And it's going to really suck if they get a hold of me and beat the hell out of me. So yeah, we live together because we have to. And it usually works out better that way. All right, we have Anna. How you doing?
Hey, Ashley. I'm doing good. Listen, my boyfriend and I, we went to South Padre last weekend, and this is over the T-shirt you had shown earlier.
Okay.
I know some fuddy-duddy had called and, got upset at you over that brainwashing one.
Yeah.
But my boyfriend and I went to South Padre, and there was this souvenir store with these huge shelves outside, and we kind of got lured in there because it said a Christian bookstore also. Okay. And we saw all these T-shirts just like that. And we're going to get you one, actually, that was really funny. It said heavy drinker in the front, and in the back it had some passage from Romans or something. But we'd also see...
Wow.
Yeah,
drinking the blood of Christ or what?
Stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, there were these really cool ones, and we totally saw the humor in it. But
wow.
Yeah, I wish we could have gotten you one, but we kind of blew cash after that.
Yeah,
there was also
for our purposes,
half-shell T-shirts. Or no, they were little lamps and stuff.
Yeah.
Made out of shells with Jesus on them. They were just hilarious. I wish I could gotten you some, but like I said, we blew our money.
Yeah, they have some good stuff in those Christian stores when you go to. Actually, I know the Grand Canyon right now I think there's something going on there where they've got a book in the gift store that's a creationist account of how it got there and how it was formed by the big flood and everything. And there's a big mix-up about this. Scientists are saying, that's not all scientific. You can't prove it. It's complete, just myth. And so they're trying to have it taken out, and other people are trying to have it put in. And it's a government-run
store, right?
Yeah, so it's a government store.
So there's a separation of church and state issue.
Exactly, exactly. So it's not a very scientific theory. Probably shouldn't be there. But yeah, going to these Christian bookstores, like I say, every now and then I'll hit one just because they're a lot of fun.
Yeah, they are. They're hilarious. And next time I go on a trip and I see something like that, I'm totally sending stuff to you and Martin.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, rock on.
Okay. All right. Thank you for calling. All right. Okay. We have Kim. How you doing?
Hi. Great. Doing
Hi.
great.
What you got for us?
I wondered if you guys have ever pondered what, if you were going to have a census, stop and think for a second about why you would have a census. That's to determine who lives in an area, right? I mean, how many people, what their names are, ages, what they do, how much they make, especially how much they make if you're interested in taxing them. So if you were going to have a census, then what on earth would be the point of asking everybody to go to wherever they were born and get counted there? I mean, there would be no point in it at all, but this is exactly what Luke tells us happened when the Romans came in and took a census of Judea.
Okay.
If you stop and think about this for a second, imagine if we did this in America. We have a census every 10 years. I mean, I would have to go to Kentucky. My wife would have to go down to the Rio Grande Valley. I don't know who would take care of the kids because the grandparents would be running off to wherever they were born. Yeah. Everyone had to stop whatever they're doing, stop their job, and go to where they were born and be counted there, and then go back to where they live.
Okay, so it's an inefficient process, but
so in addition to fallacies and such, there's some logistical problems in the Bible as well. Is that the point?
Well, the point is that of course there was a census. The Romans took a census because they needed to know who everybody was because they were getting ready to tax everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
But at no time have the Romans or anybody else in history conducted a census and instructed people to go to where they were born. This just makes absolutely no sense. However, Luke tells us this story as a means of explaining how it was that this person, Jesus, was born in Bethlehem, even though, as an adult, he spent his entire adulthood up until the last few days of his life, apparently in Galilee, which is far, far to the north.
Okay.
So you had a woman coming on earlier talking about the historicity of the Bible, and have you read this thing?
Okay.
And if you start reading the Gospels, a lot of things like this just kind of leap out at you. Was Jesus from Galilee, or was he born in Bethlehem? Well,
I had read something, and unfortunately I can't talk about it a whole lot, but it's my understanding that there were sort of two different stories going around, and they both merged together.
Luke and Matthew tell two entirely different stories to explain the same thing.
Well, that's the question I would beg is this really the same thing, or is this two different stories that existed? Whatever, stories take on a life of their own, and
there's a lot of contradictions or differences and changes within the Bible. Even among the four Gospels, there's just vastly different accounts of what actually happened. And a
lot of stories didn't even make it into the Bible. You have to take the wider net in order to say, let's consider all the stories that were there. And then there's the question of, well, what stories didn't even get written down that were part of oral history?
Exactly.
And this is all a very large thing, and we just have a very small piece of it coming down, and to say that it all has to make sense because it's one thing, I'm not so sure.
Yeah. Well, in Mark, the earliest of the Gospel, Jesus is from Galilee. There's no mention of Bethlehem. Mm-hmm. And then Luke and Matthew tell two completely different stories to explain how it was that this person was born in Bethlehem but wound up growing up in Galilee, far to the north. And Luke tells the story
the census is a rationalization to say that we had to go back?
Well, Bethlehem was the city of David. And if Jesus was truly a king, which is a king of the Jews, which is what the term Messiah meant. Of course, it wasn't religious in significance; it was a political term. Then he had to have been descended from David, because David, of course, was the archetypal great Jewish king. If whoever was going to liberate the Jews from the Romans was going to come from the house of David. Ergo, he had to have been born in Bethlehem. So how was it that this guy who grew up in the north, in Podunk, in Galilee, was born in Bethlehem? Oh, well, I can explain that, says Luke. They had a census, and everybody had to go to where they were born. So, they went down to Bethlehem. Jesus was born while they were there. Joseph and Mary, fortunately, both came from the same place. And then they went back to Galilee. Yeah. And then Matthew tells a completely different story.
And those are the kind of things that a lot of people use to rationalize tons and tons of different things in the Bible.
Yeah. But I mean, if you tell this to Christians, they just say, "I don't see any contradiction at all."
Yeah. Well, you haven't looked hard enough.
So it's very, it's very worthwhile to look at the history of the Bible and how it was written, the times and the politics and things that were going on, and the different perspectives. It's very, very interesting.
I agree with that. Although in this case, you don't even have to have any kind of historical background. All you have to do is have a little common sense and just read these accounts one after another and go, wait a minute, what's wrong with this picture?
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, well, you guys keep up the good work.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
Bye.
Yeah, there's a lot of different contradictions. Skepticsannotatedbible.com. Lots of fun in that site. Okay, just a quick reminder, we are live today, February 22nd. We also have reruns every Tuesday at 4:30, also on Channel 10, same time and channel. And that is every Tuesday that we have reruns. If you're watching this on Sunday, it's live. Call on in, 477-2288. And we're going to go ahead and take Lee. How you doing?
Hey, you had a man on there earlier that spoke about his mother moved her leg.
Yes.
Tell him that when you're dead, people have been known to move.
Yeah.
After you're dead.
And also it's a common myth or something that your fingernails continue to grow for a certain time after you die, and your hair continues to grow, stuff like that. Yeah, that doesn't happen. Moving after you're dead, that's chemical reactions.
Chemical reaction.
So, yep.
The difference between thinking and non-thinking. That's what this is all coming down to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Take care.
Okay, thanks. All right. Okay, let's see. We have, Mike, how you doing?
Hi, guys.
Hey.
Earlier in the show, you were talking about when a person gets a soul. In the Bible, there's a passage there where if a man strikes a pregnant woman, and if she miscarriages, the man pays a fine for the miscarriage. If the woman dies, he's supposed to die. So to me, it clearly does not equate an unborn fetus with a live human being. It's completely different. If you kill a person, you give up your life.
Right.
If you cause a miscarriage, no, you just pay a fine. No big deal. It's just loss of property.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the Bible is very clear. People who are against abortion, because of the Bible, haven't read the Bible.
That's a good point. That's Exodus 21, verses 22 through 25, for those that want to look it up.
Yeah.
But thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah. Another thing is the guy who says, "Oh yeah, God can condemn people to eternal hell." I mean, that's a reason why I could never be a Christian, because Christians should supposed to be like God. They should try and attain perfection, be like their God. Yeah. I'm the father of 2 kids. I can't imagine anything my kids would ever do where I would condemn them to eternal torment, eternal hell.
Yeah.
Therefore, I could never be like God. I can never attain perfection, if that's what perfection is.
Exactly.
And so I feel sorry for Christians for, I want to say they're stupid, but I hate to do that. I just think, again, they're brainwashed.
Yeah.
And I pity them just like they pity us.
Yeah, the idea that, again, it's just a religion based in fear.
Yeah.
The fact that you have to love him or, he'll burn you for all eternity. I can't see how that God would love me.
Yeah. So. And that woman who called asked me if he read the Bible. I wonder if she's read the Bible. I mean, the Bible has so many of these. If a child curses a parent's punishment, death by stoning.
Yeah.
If a man rapes a woman, the man is supposed to marry the woman and pay the father 50 shekels.
Yeah.
I mean,
which I actually looked up. It's $12.
Is that what 50 shekels is?
$12, huh?
Is that with inflation or?
So.
The people, I think Christians, if they were to read the Bible, they would not be Christians anymore, because I have not met a single Christian who believes 100% in the Bible.
Yeah.
I haven't met a Christian yet who claims slavery is a moral system.
Yeah, because again, it's a big book of multiple choice.
Exactly.
You can back up absolutely any position you want with verses from the Bible.
Exactly.
If you look long enough. And yeah, when you have to use a book like that to back up your ideas, like say, someone can take different verses, back up a completely different point of view, and still be right.
Exactly.
Sure. So,
exactly.
So shall we punish the diabetics for not being able to digest the manna from heaven, or punish the left-handers because you always hear about the right hand of God and all that.
Oh yes.
So the left hand is obviously of the devil or something. I don't know. You can make up anything you want.
Well, bastards shouldn't be going to church. In fact, I think the 10th generation of bastards are banned from going to God's churches, basically.
Yeah.
That's how nice God is.
Yeah, there are several different things where, He'll punish you through the 4th generation for, whatever crime it is.
Yes.
Yeah. So your great-great-great-grandkids are going to be suffering for your crimes and paying for your crimes.
And that's an all-loving God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good show, guys.
Thank you for calling.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, we have, we have these... God has kind of a PR problem in the Old Testament. He's kind of a bad guy. But I think Christianity is kind of a marketing thing to patch that over and put a little candy coating on it. Is kind of how I see it.
Yeah. Again, they pick and choose what they like, and that's where if you're going to suspect parts of it, you kind of have to suspect the whole thing and just start wondering, because what judgment tools are you using to say this is good and that's bad? Mm-hmm. Well, what you're actually doing is putting your own moral standard on top of the Bible by saying that people get to go to heaven if they're good. That sounds like a good thing. You get rewarded. That I'll believe. Or, you burn for all eternity just because you don't believe. That sounds a little bit harsh. I won't believe that. And that's basically you making a moral judgment, because, again, you're applying your own morals, living in society, living with other people, finding out what works and what doesn't. You're applying that to the Bible and deciding what's good and what's bad. You're not just taking it blindly. And another argument that every now and then we get is, well, that's the Old Testament. That doesn't apply.
That's right.
One, Jesus said specifically, he is not here to replace the old law. He is here to back it up, essentially. I can't remember the exact quote, but he's here to support. He is not giving new laws. He's saying, what was said before? Yeah, go with that.
Well, he would have been killed as a heretic at the time if he didn't say that.
Yeah.
Matthew 5:17 through 20. You can read it.
Matthew 5:17 through 20.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's see. We don't even know what this is.
We've got an expert in staff here.
Okay, Matthew 5:17. Okay. I think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth shall pass, not one jot or one tittle. Wow. Tittle shall be in no wise passed from the law, till all be fulfilled. Whatsoever therefore shall breaketh one of these least commandments, and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least of the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, the same shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So yeah, it's saying that, all this previous stuff, that works. And also, if the Old Testament doesn't count, why so much flap about the 10 Commandments? Mm-hmm. Take them down.
Especially from Christians.
Exactly. If it doesn't apply, hey, take them down. So, all right. Who we got now? Sarah, hi, how you doing?
Hey, Ashley. I called in last week or 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, how you doing?
Doing pretty good. I was wondering, is there any proof that a man called Jesus existed? And also, what explanation the Christians have for the missing years of Jesus' life. I mean, he was a child, and then he was an adult, the entire formative years of Jesus. In fact, I've heard one account, or heard of one account, where someone, postulated that, or did some research, and came up with this idea that Jesus actually traveled to the east, to the Orient, studied with the Buddhists, I guess was a monk for a while or something like that. And this was all, and this may have been a reason that much of his life is missing from the Bible, and Christians don't seem to really have a problem with this.
It also would explain why, so many of the elements of Christianity are borrowed from some of the more Eastern religions.
Right.
So it would rationalize that pretty well too.
Yeah.
So those are my two questions. Does Jesus actually exist in terms of as a historical figure rather than just purely a religious one? And what do you think of these missing years?
Yeah. As for the missing years, I haven't heard too much on them actually. It seems like I've read a couple things here and there, but not very much. So yeah, I'm really not too sure on that. As for the existence or non-existence, possibly, I haven't studied it that much, but I haven't read all that much on any kind of historical accounts of Jesus. The main one that Christians usually bring up is in the writings of Josephus. They have an account there of Jesus, but it's very short. It's kind of shoved in the middle of some other writings, and so it's pretty much any biblical scholar says, yeah, that's a forgery. It was put in there later on just to, again, back up their thing, say, well, look over there, he wrote about Jesus too.
Okay.
So yeah, from my understanding, there's not very much, but again, something I haven't looked into. I know there's a couple books out there. It's still kind of beside the point, though, to a certain extent, because even if Jesus did exist, even if there was somebody that was walking around Judea, and teaching these things, and that the Bible is based on, it still doesn't prove that he could walk on water, go water to wine, or
right, of course, and much of that I think is children's stories anyway.
Yeah.
But it seems very suspicious to me, suspiciously like the deletion of accounts of Jesus' life, if it were to exist, were political somehow in nature, where it wouldn't serve Christianity in the way it needed to be. It wouldn't serve their political aspirations to include the fact that Jesus might have actually made a whole bunch of mistakes in his youth, indiscretions and things like that.
And I think one of the arguments that I might have heard also is that had Jesus existed, he was a figure that incited rebellion. He was a problem to the government at the time, essentially. And so the government may very well have just, destroyed any reference to him to, again, just, shut everybody up.
Right.
If you lose all the evidence, then he never existed, in a sense.
Yeah.
And so that again, possibly, who knows?
Yeah, much like the energy minutes in Bush's White House.
Yes.
All right. Well, you guys,
touché.
Good show.
Okay, thanks, Sean.
All right, bye.
Okay, we have got time for one more quick call. Let me see.
Do one.
Okay, we will go with, what was that again? Sorry. Okay, how you doing?
Hello?
Yes, that's you.
I was just wondering when you knew that you were an atheist, or when I don't know if you were raised atheist, or...
Okay. I was actually raised Catholic. My dad brought me to church every week. As a kid, I just remember, I never really had the same feelings. I didn't have this, I go to church and all of a sudden I'm so happy and calm and content with the world. I never had anything like that. And I remember when I was a little kid, I'd lay in bed and, just look at the toys and say, God, if you're out there, just move anything in this room 1 inch, and I'm yours forever. That's all it takes. Just show me one little thing, and I'm there, no problem. And never happened. And so that was basically the start of it. And then up through high school and college, just more reading and thinking, and I just started saying, nah, it's not really going to work. So, okay.
And you?
I guess I wasn't raised in a religious household. My mother took us to church on Easter and Christmas, and that was about it. But one of my first sort of real religious experiences that I can remember was I was told when my grandfather died that they had gone to heaven, and my reaction as a kid was, "Cool, let me see." Let's see what all this stuff, because it was such a fantastic concept, even to me as a kid, that I really wanted to see it, and I never did get to see it. But I much later on, I really sort of settled in that I gave a presentation today on the soul, and that's sort of the last thing I really sort of gave up. I guess we're running out of time, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Sorry.
We're going to have to let you go. We've got 30 seconds left. Thanks for calling in, though. Okay, again, this is the Atheist Experience. We will be back next week, 4:30 on Sunday, Channel 10. Weekly meetings. Check our website, and we'll have some information there on when and where they are exactly. Anyway, been a great show. Thanks for calling in. Don, thank you very much for coming on and helping out.
I had a lot of fun.
There's our love rings, Austin.